distinguished guests, dear friends, mes chers amis, it's great pleasure for my staff and for me to welcome you this afternoon to the Maison Française at the French Embassy as we commemorate a legendary milestone of flight and the bravery and determination of French aviators Charles Lindbergh and François Colly, pilots of the famed Oiseau Blanc, the white bird. As you know, we also commemorate today the end of the Second World War in Europe, and I want to seize this opportunity to express France's deep and eternal gratitude to America and to the so many American soldiers who risked and often sacrificed their young lives for the freedom of France and Europe. We will never forget. Mes chers amis, 86 years ago, on this very day, May 8th, 1927, at 5:17 a.m., Lindbergh and Colly, two heroes themselves of World War I, what we call the Great War, took off from Paris-Le Bourget field. Their plane, a Levasseur PL-8, was bound for the United States, and they were anticipating the thrilling achievement of the first successful non-stop transatlantic flight between Paris and New York. What a dream. Imagine climbing into a two-seat, open cockpit biplane, only 31 feet in length, constructed mostly of fabric and wood, for an almost 4,000-mile flight. It was painted white to aid its recovery should it crash, an unfortunately prophetic caution. But this coat of paint also lent it a marvelous avian grace. It truly appeared like a large white bird in flight. Lindbergh and Colly, I always say it in French, so Lindbergh and Colly had approximately 42 hours to reach their destination before the fuel ran out. They had no onboard radio and relied only on celestial navigation, the sun, the moon, and the stars. The white bird was powered by a technical marvel of its era, a Lorraine-Dietrich W12EB engine. The storied French engine, manufactured Lorraine-Dietrich, is actually a corporate relative of today's Safran. Once aloft, the white bird soared out on the Great Circle route that would take Lindbergh and Colly across the English Channel, over part of England and Ireland, across the Atlantic to Newfoundland, Terre-Neuve, over Nova Scotia, past Boston, and finally to a dramatic water landing near the Statue of Liberty in New York. That was the plan, that was the dream. The scene would have been truly amazing. The white bird, piloted by two Frenchmen, gliding to a stop in view of the Statue of Liberty, one of the most significant symbols of French-American friendship. But as we know, Lindbergh and Colly did not reach their destination. In the words of Charles Lindbergh, who would land at Le Bourget 12 days later, Lindbergh and Colly vanished like midnight's ghosts. Joint search efforts, which included the United States Coast Guard, and I want to thank you again, Admiral, for sharing this moment with us, which also included the navies of America, France, and Canada, combed their route for days as the world anxiously awaited news, but eventually the hunt was abandoned. Our two countries, France and the United States, have a shared history of daring and innovation, two national traits that really exemplify the voyage of l'Oiseau Blanc. So it should not be surprising that we would not just leave this mystery to the dusty archives of history. Since 2009, Recherche de l'Oiseau Blanc, founded by Bernard Decret, has staged annual search campaigns that have attempted to locate remnants of the white bird, of Oiseau Blanc. And since 2012, Safran has actively partnered with them in that effort, with the special interest of locating the aircraft's engine. As Safran chairman Jean-Paul Hertemann has said, by lending its not only financial but also technical support to this quest, Safran is truly seeking to find a piece of its own history. Actually, Safran's commitment is even more than that. It is a reflection of their corporate spirit, a spirit that truly pushes the boundaries of technology and innovation. I believe this is your trademark. During this month and the next, the 5th search campaign will take place. In just a few minutes, we will receive a comprehensive overview. But let me tell you that Safran's dedication to the project is really impressive. It features engineering and aviation experts, specialized equipment, and outreach to corporations that offer additional skills and resources. So we are all very, very grateful to Safran, a wonderful and very successful worldwide company, very strong here in the United States, which is also the sponsor of our concert series here at the French Embassy with our cultural services, with La Maison Française, and with the French-American Cultural Foundation. Cher Bernard Decret, you too are a true pioneer and a pilot. Your efforts to locate l'Oiseau Blanc are writing a new chapter in its ongoing story. I can imagine that when you founded La Recherche de l'Oiseau Blanc, in search of the white bird, there was no shortage of skeptics. And you are not among them, no doubt. An undertaking such as yours requires not just hard work and dedication and an abundance of optimism, it also needs passion and determination. It was through such determination that 36 pieces of corroborating evidence have been gathered, suggesting that l'Oiseau Blanc did indeed cross the Atlantic. As you have said, you are guided in this mission by a lofty goal, a very noble cause. You told the Wall Street Journal, and I quote you, that we want to establish the true history of the tragic end of our pilots. So I want to thank you, cher Président, on behalf of all of us today from the bottom of my heart. With Safran, the French Ministry of Defense, the French Overseas Ministry, the French Navy, the Civil Aviation Directorate, several municipal bureaus in the search area of Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon, all have lent their support. Let me also note that CNES, the French Space Agency, supplied a magnetometer to the 2012 mission. So tonight, I really want to thank them all. As you can see, we have gathered here this afternoon to celebrate and support a major undertaking deeply anchored in our two countries' shared history, but also in our common passion for innovation. And the French-American partnership, as you all know, is at its strongest when it, so to speak, walks on these two legs, our shared values and history and culture on one side, but also our vision for innovation, for being part of globalization on the other sides. We eagerly await the results of the upcoming l'Oiseau Blanc search expedition, and we wish them bonne chance. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend Peter Langill, President and CEO of Safran USA. Merci beaucoup.
Safran welcomes you to this commemorative event. You're here today, as the ambassador stated, because of the bravery of two aviation heroes. On May 8th, 86 years ago, I woke up about the time that they were taking off this morning, 6 hours difference. But again, as was pointed out, the tie, the historical tie for Safran, what do we have to do with it, is that Lorraine Dietrich engine that you'll see a copy of on the model out in the entryway. That's our historical forebear. Lorraine Dietrich, for those of you who are aviation history buffs, and many of you are, I assume, or you wouldn't be here, became part of the Nome Rhone group. Nome Rhone became part of SNECMA, and SNECMA became Safran. So this is our historical forebears. We are the generations several times removed from this engine and from their efforts. The engine itself was exceptional, and it offered unrivaled performance for its time because the White Bird was largely wood, dope, fabric, etc. Aside from its aluminum fuel tanks, that engine is probably all that survives of the aircraft to this day. And so that's why Safran is honored to participate in the recovery efforts of that aircraft. Bernard will tell you that we continue to look for pieces of the wing and the fuselage that may be present in other archives or warehouses, but that remains an elusive search. The thing that strikes me, that attracts me, and literally this morning I woke up thinking about that, was the bravery, in fact the audacity of these two veteran aviators who had faced death before and made the decision, the conscious decision, not to take a radio, which at that time was probably on the order of about 40 pounds, not to take parachutes, not to take rafts. This aircraft, when it took off, had no more wheels. So this was a decision, this was literally a go, no-go decision that they faced at 5:17 on that morning, along with the news of some conflicting news as to whether the weather was going to permit their crossing at all. That to me is pure bravery. To sit in that morning on the ramp at Le Bourget while we will soon celebrate the 50th Paris Air Show with 1,000 pounds of gas, an engine that was approximately 400 shaft horsepower, not much more, no radios, as I said, no GPS, no in-flight entertainment system, to sit there with 1,000 pounds of fuel and say, let's do this. That is just pure bravery. I still am amazed at that decision. With that said, I do have the distinct honor of introducing Bernard Decré, president of the Oiseau Blanc Association. When I first met Bernard, he was kind enough to host me at the Yacht Club of France, which he is an honored member. He may not tell you, but if it's in his biography for the day, he has sponsored the French version of the America's Cup. He has trained over 30,000 young adults in the art of navigation. He is a true philanthropist, adventurer, aviator. And when we were discussing perhaps our misspent youth, we were discussing some interest that Safran had in China. And he said, have you ever been? And I said, well, as a young midshipman, I was in Hong Kong. But that's the extent of my travels in what is now China. He said, well, I've been, but I drove from Paris. So that's the kind of gentleman that you're going to hear from when Bernard makes his remarks. In closing, and I know that you want to get everyone's excited to hear what Bernard has to say, but I take the words of another great aviator, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, when he wrote, transport of the mails, transport of the human voice, transport of flickering pictures. In this century, as in others, our highest accomplishments still have the single aim of bringing men together. And it's in this spirit that Safran is honored to bring us all together today. Bernard, the floor is yours.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much. I am very proud to be there. And with our friends Coast Guards and Safran's team. The story, for me, began in 2006. when I have 4 children, my number 4, Angèle, the girl, gave me that book for Christmas in 2006. And she said, Dad, I give you that book. I don't know if it is interesting for you. I say, Angèle, every book are interesting. But I can't imagine from now 7 years, I will spend 50 hours a week on that investigation.
One of the things this shows is the fantastic cooperation that goes on between France and the United States. And from the Coast Guard's viewpoint, and having flown in the Dolphin for way too long, I can tell you that I have very much enjoyed my time in service. And for those of you who have never flown or seen that type of fog, I can't imagine trying to do a letdown in the days before a radar altimeter, because we have crews almost hit the water on a daily basis when we're in those conditions, and we got all sorts of navigation gear, much better than what these guys had. So what their bravery is really that, true bravery. And with that, I'll give it back to you, Ambassador.